this video is self-sponsored by Itero Gaming. I would love for you guys to try out our new artificial intelligence drafting coach. You can try it completely free with no download by going to itero.gg, typing in a draft, type in your account information, and get a recommendation based on that information. Welcome, Alejandro.
Hello, how are you?
Very well, thanks. How about yourself?
So far, so good.
Awesome, good stuff. So I think the best thing to do is just start back at the beginning. So if you could just give us a walkthrough of your esports career, and as well other skills that you've picked up along the way, whether that's outside of esports or education or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Well, basically, I'm Alejandro, current analyst for Dignitas and UCAM back in Spain. Regarding my education, I'm currently studying software engineer at the University of Greenwich here in London. Before that, I had studied some higher technician degrees, basically in software development and data analysis. I have some background in, let's say, non-esports company, especially like a consultancy, which is called GFI. Actually, it was called GFI. Right now, it's called Intium, something like that. I don't really remember, but basically, it was an international consultancy. I was working in the innovation team. Yeah, after that, I decided to move to London, begin with a new life. Talking about my esports past or career, I will say that I have started on 2016, 17. I don't really remember. It was a long time ago. But I consider that my professional career started with Team Heretics. It was in the second division of the Spanish league. After that, we keep evolving ourselves, like with different teams like G2, Vodafone, and fortunately Dragons too, with a really bad split. But yeah, after that, I went to BTXL, where you know that already, we achieved we went to the finals of the European Masters, and now here we are.
Awesome. So you're glad to see Heretics coming into the LEC?
Yes.
Long journey ahead. All they had to do was get rid of you, and then look at that. They're now tier one. Good. I think one thing that might be interesting to people is that you don't actually work, although you work internally for Dignitas, you actually work almost like a consultant, right? So you have your own company, which pronounced Nextep. Is that right? Nextep Technology. So I'll just read the bio of your Twitter for this.
Go for it.
So Nextep is a tech company that came about to transform esports analysis for any team in any region of the globe using software based on the cloud. Could you just give us a bit of a rundown of what that's like working as a kind of a contractor as opposed to inside of a team?
It's basically as a contractor. Basically, as you said, it's totally correct. We work as a consultancy. We go to the teams, they give us issues that they have regarding data analysis or even issues related to the organization that they have inside. And we give them different solutions based on software, mainly. Because we have, like me and Carlos, which is the other founder of the company, because we have developer background, we mainly offer data analysis for most of the solution, especially if there are in-game software analysis. So yeah, I would say that this is a very nice summary.
Nice, yeah. And what really, because I obviously came from a similar background with Itero Gaming being external, not internal to a team. My reasons are very different because I want to own the IP and completely control that because I want to do other stuff with it outside of esports. But for you, what is it that kind of drove you to go down the contractor route? Why didn't you just accept the first team contract that came to you?
What do you mean exactly with that question?
So rather than just being employed by Dignitas as a in-house analyst, you made the decision to instead go out and create a company, which I assume has you've had to actually start a company, I believe, in the UK, right? There's lots of forms and tax involved and all that. It's more of a headache, right, to do that. What is the benefit of you working as a external contractor as opposed to actually working directly in the team as an employee?
You want to talk about taxes or more like the idea behind it?
If you just say tax reduction, that's fine. We can.
No, I'm
I'll
gonna
accept
be
that.
totally honest. Next step, at the beginning of everything, next step was an idea that I had, and then I contacted Carlos. I contacted Carlos like a long time ago, a year ago, more than a year ago. I explained to him the idea that I have, and he started to add more things or more additional tasks that we could do. Yeah, basically we had that idea. We wanted to sell it to different teams, but then after different talks with many LEC teams, we discovered that maybe having a product and offer it to different teams is not the best idea because they want exclusivity. So basically, we changed a bit the plan that we had, and we decided to make customizable apps for different clients. So this is where the company starts, and we can provide this consultancy to different clients. In that case, our esports teams. That's why it makes sense to have the company, and we can provide an easy service, and it's basically all of the bureaucracy is much easier in that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know we kind of skipped ahead there to that question, but what the really the standard question that I think everyone wants to know, and the reason that I'm doing this series is, what does an analyst actually do?
Nothing. Nothing.
Well, we can't tell people that because
You
then they'll know the
want my
secret.
version? You want my
Of
version or
course,
the
right.
coach or the head coach version?
I think it's quite interesting, right? Because you speak to different analysts and you speak to different coaches, and everyone has a completely different opinion of what an analyst is and what their function within a team is. So what I'll ask is for what your version of an analyst is, what you actually get up to on a day-to-day basis.
I will say it depends on what you want to focus mainly. If you want to be more data oriented, or if you want to be more scouter oriented, or if you want to be more, how can you say that, like game knowledge oriented, there are many different things that you could do as analyst, I would say. So it really depends of what you want to do, but mainly if you want to be data analyst, your role inside the team will be super important. Like as the other roles, all of them are important inside the team. But as analyst, all of them, your main goal, I think, is to provide and support the rest of the staff with the best or with the highest quality data possible that you can provide them, basically. I think this is a summary of what analyst has to do. Also, there is, on the other hand, you need to deal a bit, not too much. I'm not a big fan of dealing with players, to be honest. But you still need to deal a bit with them. Why I'm not a fan of dealing with players is because it is already difficult to explain things to coaches or strategic coaches or other people in the staff. It is very difficult explaining certain things that you have discovered with data, or as a scouter, like for example, you will go and say, hey, I checked that this team is doing that on the LPL, and then you will have to go to the strategic coach and explain to him blah 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 blah. But you also have to deal with players regarding builds, regarding jungler pathings, regarding different strats. So yeah, I will say that.
Yeah, I like it. We kind of went on a tangent, which I'm hoping we can pick up on, which is to do with the players and the coaches. So you've had an opportunity to work with quite a few different teams now. Do you find that in general there is quite a difference in the coaches and what they're looking for from an analyst? So would you have a certain coach that just says, I need just the data and I'll do the rest? Are there ones who say, I need you to create a report and you need to show me exactly what decisions I need to make? Do you find that different coaches, different teams have a different approach to what they expect from you?
Definitely. I really think that it's super important that as an analyst, you have this skill of being able to adapt to the stuff that you are currently working with. So yeah, definitely. Like I've seen many different type of coaches. I will say that there is no one that is similar to another. Everyone has their unique style, I would say.
Yeah, agreed. I also I understand the frustration, right, when it comes to you are doing analytics work, and you may discover something, whether that's from watching other games from the LPL, LCK, whatever, or it could be you're just doing deep dives into data, you found some trend in solo queue, a new item that's optimal, whatever it might be. That is only half the battle, right? Like getting a player or a coach to make an actual decision on stage, whether that's to pick a certain champion in draft or a player to make it on stage to pick a certain item, that is completely different. Do you have any tips for people who may find themselves in that position and need to convince a coach or a player to make a decision that you know is right, but they might not believe you?
You can provide that with data, but it also happens to me many times that even if the data is correct and numbers are always correct, even if numbers are correct, many times a coach or a player could tell you, I don't feel that way. You cannot do anything against it.
Right. It's intuition, right? They play so many solo queue games, talking about the players now, that they get an intuition for the game, and it's very difficult to override it because some of them sink a huge amount of time, and they really believe that they are the best, and a lot of the times they are. But then to be able to change their decision, especially, and this is another question that I'm interested in talking to you about, is does your solo queue rank have any impact on it? Would they prefer an analyst who's grandmaster, or is it fine as long as you can back yourself up even if you're silver?
No one never ever asked me for my rank on solo queue. Never.
Probably a good thing.
But besides that, what you said about the ego of the players, it is true that some of them they have ego, but at the same time, I have experience with many smart players, and those players they will tell you more. They will actually talk about feelings, how they feel with this item. Because the good thing of the League of Legends, in general, any type of sport and esports, the most important part, in my opinion, is like when someone feels comfortable with something. Because even if, for example, let's talk about items now. This item is better than the other one, for example, regarding data, but the player is not comfortable and he does not know how to play the limits with that item. So basically, here we will be talking about the performance of the player, and you need to optimize the performance of your player. So of course, if the difference is so huge, the player will tell you, okay, yeah, let's do it. There's no way that I'm not gonna do it. But if the difference is like 200, 100 damage, and the player does not feel comfortable with it, they might tell you, I don't really like it. I don't feel like this is gonna work out. But it's just basically he's not comfortable with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. A good example would be something like Gale Force, right? A lot of people say that Gale Force is always a good item in a certain situation, but if that player is dashing into situations and dying, then it's a bad item regardless of what the statistics go up. Of course, you can teach someone to not do that, but when you're making these sort of decisions where you've got a game coming up on the weekend, you don't really have the time to get rid of this sort of instinct to dash forward and kill someone. So sometimes it just isn't the item because, like you say, it's down to the player as opposed to whatever the statistics can tell you.
But I will say, in professional teams, like at the highest level, a player at least they should try it. Like if you tell them that something is good, they should try it. If they do not try, they are not professional at all. I'm just gonna say that.
Which brings us to another debate, which is when do they actually get an opportunity to try new things? So there's this big, and Alice brings this up quite a lot around about how the draft becomes quite stagnant quite quickly in a season or within patches, and a lot of the argument for that is that the players don't have enough time in the day to both optimize their current strategies as well as experiment with new ones. What I mean is, if you only have a scrim block of 5, and arguably scrims are the only way of really truly testing how something is in pro play, even though it's still a bad representation, and you only have 5 games and maybe one's going to get cancelled, are you going to spend 2 of those games trying that new item, trying that new champion, doing something new, when you're losing playing the sort of the meta champions anyway? How do teams actually balance this out?
I'm gonna give you an example here. NBA. You know NBA, right?
Yeah.
How is possible that they have time to try different things if they are constantly playing? Like they play 3-4 times per week, I think. Like they play many times per week, plus training, plus traveling. How is possible that they have time to do everything? It's not about the time that you have, it's about how you use the time or the quality of your time. And I think this is one of the most important things. And this actually is something that, for example, we in Nextep, we try to help the teams that we are currently working with. We try to tell them the best or what we think that could be the best or where we can improve the schedules. Of course, we don't do that alone. We involve the psychologist of the team. We involve like many people. We have a meeting. We argue about it, and we try to find the best solution. But I will say it's not about 5 screen blocks because 5 game a day it's nothing. It's like literally nothing for a professional player. It's more about how they use the time. For example, in my opinion, I think that the screens are really good. Right now, in the way that it is, 5 games, 4 games is completely fine. But I consider that players must have secondary accounts, or even in the main account, doesn't really matter, where they go and test some champions, some builds, some third-time things that you don't really want to do them on scrims as first time, because it's going to be a waste of time, of course. That's my point. So first, go to the solo queue, try the champion, try the build, try whatever you need to try, then bring it to the scrim, and then you can master it with the rest of the team. But it's more like, in my experience, and it happens a lot, suddenly there is a player that goes and tells you, hey, I want to try this in a scrim first time. Yeah, okay, let's do it. Why not? And it's like, you know?
Yeah, right. There's stages to it. It's almost like if you want to unlock this character in scrims, you're gonna have to level it up in solo queue. I mean, the models that we build for predicting whether someone's going to win a game or not, so much of it down to is just that very early level of practice. Those first 10 games are incredibly important. If you're looking at a player with 0 games and another player with 10 games on a champion, that 10-game person is going to have such a higher win chance than the person on 0, and it starts petering out, starts decreasing in impact. But yeah, early doors, you gotta get that experience in.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I was interested in is that you're actually based in London, right?
Yeah.
So you work remotely for Dignitas, which number
Yes.
one, you've got the time difference to deal with. But how do you actually find working remotely? And have you actually ever worked in a gaming house or within a team setting like that?
Yes, I did. Like many times. Even with you in BTXL.
I don't think you were there when I showed up, but I only can be
No, I
out.
mean I didn't see you like face to face, but when I was on BTXL, I was there on the house with the rest of the players. I think that for our role, it doesn't matter, to be honest. I believe that it doesn't matter if you're remotely or face to face. I will say that it actually depends on the coaching staff and the head coaches in general. What I mean with that is, if you're face to face, it's easier to have a daily talks, maybe, but everything depends on what they really want to do. Because if you're remotely, for me, it doesn't matter. I just go to Discord and I send you a message. It takes me like 5 minutes. It doesn't take me any time. The player, the same. You can reach them out on Discord. They can reach you on Discord too. You know. So for analysts, to be honest, the difference between being in a gaming house or not is literally 0. The time difference that you told me with Dignitas, yes, but at the same time, it's good for us because we are working when they are sleeping. So when they wake up, they have everything ready. So it's actually quite efficient, to be honest. And I was super surprised because we are awake when they start the scrims, like 2 scrims more or less. We have some data automatized, so it's not a big deal. They can use the app while we are sleeping. It will work anyway. And the day after, when I wake up at 6 a.m., I check the message. I check any message on Discord that we have, some issues, bugs, whatever, something new that they want to check that they've seen on scrims. They want to check data of something in particular, anything. And we will be doing that while they sleep. So once they're awake, they will have it. So it's actually quite efficient, to be honest.
Awesome. That sounds like a good system.
Mm.
One of the things that I think would be interesting is getting your opinion on where you think esports analytics is today. how far in the journey have we come, and what does the future of esports analytics look like? And I apologize, that's a very broad question, so take it however you want.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Like, compared to what, like if we compare it to football or basketball or Formula One, we are quite far of them, of course. Like esports have like 20 years, I will say, between 20 25, something like that. No, like if we talk about the very, very, very beginning. Okay. Let's say that the boom of esports were in 2010, like when the League of Legends started, yeah. But even before that, we knew League of Legends, and I will say that analysts started around 5-7 years ago, I would say. So it's very early. We are in a very early stage. We still need to learn a lot, and not only us, also the people that are around us. What I mean with that is, for example, there are teams on the LCS that are on and I think on LEC too. They are still using Google Sheets as a main software tool. I don't really know how to say that, which is quite old for the stage that we are nowadays. I really think that it's quite inefficient. It's very inefficient, but yeah, we still need to learn a lot from each other. Even we as an analyst, we need to learn from players, and we need to learn from coaches to get the most efficient tool as possible. But also coaches and players, because I had many discussions, especially with coaches, that they don't want to use a web page. But then when you talk with them, they tell you, yeah, can you do that to me? And then you tell them, yeah, I mean, we can do it, but it has these certain limitations. And they go and tell you it works very slow. And you go and tell them, yeah, it's a Google Sheets. It's not a web page, What are you expecting? So it's like 50-50. At the end, I want to add here that many people right now that are working in the analyst sector, they have degrees, they have studies on data or software development or whatever. But I want to say something, especially in my degree in software engineering. People tend to think that what we do is just go in front of a computer, open Visual Studio Code, take the Riot API, and start programming. And we don't even know what are we doing. No, just coding. Like we don't have idea about data. We don't have idea about anything. They only think that we know how to code. But I want to say something, and I want to clarify something. It's like also we have studied how to present this data and how to treat the data. This is something that the coaches still they don't really trust on us. And I will say, because it also makes sense, because at the same time there are some analysts that they don't have this knowledge yet. But yeah, this is something that I want to say. We also know how to do the presentations. Basically, we have a study how to do presentations regarding data and when the data is actually relevant. This is something that many people don't know. But when the data is relevant and when it's not relevant, it's not only I go to the computer, open Visual Code, let's create an environment on Python and use the API. No, we do many other things. I will say, just to summarize everything, that we are in a very, 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 very early stage for the analyst and for the coaches, both. And the next step, I will say, that is the coaches right now, especially on LEC, LCS, and major European leagues. The next step, I think, is the coaches evolving, I would say, their mindset and getting ready for new tools, and also the resources that a team has or can invest in those things.
Right. Which I think brings us into a question which I don't want to say it's touchy, but it is a little bit depending on the audience, which is to do with compensation, right? So, like you say, the people who are analysts, tend to, from the ones that I've met, tend to be pretty skilled, right? If they went to the average private sector job, they're going to be able to get a pretty decent salary, right? Because they've got coding experiences, they're very good at speaking to people. On top of that, they have to actually know the game as well, which is an entire skill in itself. And certainly what I found, and I'm happy enough to admit it, is that it was very difficult to get teams to realize the value that you can bring, right? Because it's not like the analyst salary is anywhere on par with a player salary. Yet, from what I've seen, certain analysts who do very good jobs are able to actually bring a huge amount and should be not on par, of course, with the player, but certainly within that sort of region, right? So what do you think it is, apart from lack of exposure, lack of knowledge, that restricts analysts and kind of analysts in similar jobs from getting their fair due when it comes to esports compensation?
Okay, so I will say, first of all, what do you think that is one of the most important things for a team? Like, imagine if you are a CEO of a team, you have a certain budget and you have to split it. Will you consider your analyst team as one of the big parts of your budget?
Yeah, certainly. I would go player, coach, analyst as my priority if I was to have a team of 7.
But my priority, me as a CEO, will be content creators, having players with a lot of fan base, making a brand for my team, because at the end, what I want as a team, my main goal is getting a fan base. Because with this fan base, I will get sponsorships, I will get partners, I will get different things. At the end, I need the income. So that's why I'm making this point, because that's why it's the difference between the salaries between a player and an analyst will be always that huge. Like if we go to football, for example, a low salary right now is like 4 millions, between 2 and 4 millions euros per year. This is a low salary in football. But this is because the player moves more money, I would say, regarding interactions, regarding many things, than an analyst. What I meant with that is like people, when they go and watch the game, no one will care about who is the analyst of this team. Like very few people. I will not say no one, I will say very few people. But they will definitely care about who is Comp, who is Trimby, who is El Joya, who are those players? Everyone will care about that. But only few people will care about who is the analyst. So I will say that when you are doing the investment on the analyst, right now I'm not expecting something huge. But it is true, and we can see it on the LCS, LCK, and LPL. LEC, we started to see it a bit this year. Still, it's not good enough. But we can see that in the other regions, they're starting to invest more because they can see a better, like a most efficient way of dealing with the daily routine. Okay, because I'm gonna give you here an example. Another issue that coaches and in general team managers have is that they expect from us to develop something fast, like within a split, which is, being honest, impossible. Like you cannot develop anything in few weeks. I mean, you can, but you will throw it away in the next 3 weeks. If we talk about software, you know what we are talking about, no? I'm gonna give you an example of a team that is in the Premier League, which is Liverpool. Basically, I don't remember exactly which year, but they hired someone to work in the data analysis department, and they have been working with this guy for 5 years. This guy did an interview and he said, the project that I have with Liverpool, and I told them it will not start working until after the first 3 years is when the project will start working, and you will start seeing the first results. But this time Liverpool did not win that much. They were in a very they were doing so in the league and Champions League too. But after the 5 years, That is when the data analyst said, now it's when we are going to start to see a big advances. After that is when they start winning and they start to be the dominated team that we have right now in Europe, which is the Liverpool Football Club. I'm not gonna say that data analysts or analysts in general are the most important thing of the team, because I don't think so. But I think they're a quite important part. Like they're important and significant part that you need to have if you want to be more efficient. There is a mistake, I believe, or in my opinion, is a mistake. Right now, like 2 years ago, bias give us access to data of the scrims and official games, which contains a lot of data, second by second of the game, and you can do many things with it, many things with it. But in my opinion, there is something that teams they don't really understand, because when you talk with a coach and you ask him what is the most important thing, they will tell you, I'm not sure about LEC. I'm not gonna say anything about LEC. I think this has changed in the last few years. But before, when you talk with coaches and you tell them what is the most important thing that an analyst should do, they will tell you scouting reports. Now, if you compare that to football or NBA, yeah, they do have scoutings, of course they do. But the most important part is not that. It's the team itself and improve the team itself. This is when basically our project is about. We want to improve our team. We don't really want to improve. We don't really want to do a good scouting report, because yeah, it will make a difference, but a small difference. But if you make your coach better or help your coach to work more efficiently, and you have a software or a tool or a person, doesn't matter, you have something that helps you to detect the issues of your own team more than the others, and you improve them, you will get more results that if you have an incredible, an amazing and perfect scouting report. That is my opinion. Um, so basically what I want to say with that is, right now we are still in a very early stage, as we spoke before. Um, if we move out of the LEC, there are not many people who are able to work with bias, because at the end it's quite difficult tool to manage for new people, for beginners. Especially because you need to download the zip files, which use a lot of memory of your computer, etc., etc., etc. So it's something that you have to be very efficient regarding the code with it if you want it to work efficiently, of course. So regarding compensation, I would say it depends. I will say we are in a stage that a team should have two different roles right now in a team. First one, this is like in a normal company. The first one is the senior analyst, the one who already has the experience and he can deal with the daily problems and um, the daily task. And then you should also have someone that is not as experienced, as like more like a junior, and they want to learn and improve. What is the problem with that? It's like many coaches, they actually believe that analysts they are useless, and if they have one, they won't pay him or her more than 300 200 euros per month, which in my opinion, I think that's called, how is that word in English? Explo Like when you
Unsure.
are when you are a slave, basically.
I don't know. I don't know what you're going at. Sorry.
Well, basically, yeah, don't worry. When you have to work 14 hours per day for 300 euros per month,
Hmm.
this is not good.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what. Doesn't matter what. You are spending a lot of time of your life because you love it. Okay. Still, it's not good. Why I'm saying it's not good? Because there are many people who wants to go, doesn't matter what, to the highest position of the analyst role. And even on LEC, I would say there are people who earn less than 500 euros per month on LEC. Um, and this is because they just want to be, or they just want to have this, or be in this world, in the esports world, and have this fan base and be around people who are famous, and they wanted to be tweet on Like they want the team to mention them on Twitter and those things, which in my opinion I think is not our role. Like for me, I'm gonna ask you something, Jack. Do you think that you, like your job, will matter or will change if your team mentions you in a tweet?
If I was working internally as an analyst, then I would say definitely not, right? Because that's the only bringing your personal brand. I guess for me it's slightly different because I value my company's brand, which I can use through my own
Yes.
Twitter, just being
Yes.
transparent
But
about it. So yes, I would.
that's a different thing. That's about working the brand of your company, right? But there is something that we need to understand, and it's like when you're an analyst, of course, it's good to have your own personal brand. But if you're really good, if you're a really good analyst, doesn't matter the brand that you have. The team will know you already. And of course, like for example, if you are Duffman, which has a really good fan base, you it will be easy for you to find a team. It will be easy. It is true. But at the same time, you cannot base your work or you cannot earn 500 euros per month just to be in that sector, if that makes sense. Because you are not only annoying yourself, you are also actually annoying the others. Because it actually happens to me when you go to a team and you tell them, hey, I have this to offer. Um, and then a team will go and they will tell you, I mean, I have another one who can do that for 300 euros per month. Why should I hire you? And you are like, and you are asking for 2000. And it's like, yeah, okay, see you then. Like if you don't want, if you want to exploit, yeah, that's the word, exploit. If you want to
Okay.
exploit someone, it's none of my business, it's yours. Okay, I don't want to be part of this. You are
Yep.
not going to exploit me. I'm giving you a service which I believe is good. If you like it, well. If you don't like it, see you. And unfortunately, there are many teams in major leagues that they have a really, 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 really good people around, and they are literally exploiting them. I'm not gonna say names right now, but I can tell you that in the ERL, in the European Masters, there are at least 2 analysts of top teams that are earning less than 300 euros or 0 euros per month. I'm not gonna give you names, of course, but this is something huge. This is something huge. I mean, and at the end, will you say that is the fault of the team for not paying, or is the fault of the analyst for accepting that? Because if you don't accept that, and we can talk about different things like what will you do when you are new, for example, or when you want to start to be an analyst. If you don't accept work for free for a team, because it literally doesn't give you anything, you will not grow yourself. Maybe you will, but it's very unlikely. What you have to do is, for example, as Arthur did, he started to publish different things on Twitter. He started to write different ideas on different Discord servers, etc., etc., etc. And one day he got an offer from Rogue. Like, congratulations, like he was showing the people and the world what he can do. And at some point, as I told you before, this work will reach a senior analyst, and he or she will say, okay, this is actually quite good. We are going to hire this guy. But if you go to a lower team or not as quality team and you start working for them for free just because you want to be in the esports sector, my recommendation is that you try to avoid this, because you're gonna burn out at some point. You will not see any compensation, and in general it is better if you just go through different discords that there are right now. There is your Discord, for example, Jack, that you support people that they want to start with the Riot API. They have, if you are new, you have many tools that you can use. For example, Flora, the analyst Astralis, she wrote some articles on Medium, I believe, that you can learn from it. You can start from it. You can create your own tools slowly, and ask for feedback. You can go and ask feedback to people. They can give you feedback. And I think it's like the composition of the analysts, we both have fault, because we as analysts accept a very low salary, and at the same time, teams they kind of abuse the people who just want to be here because of yes.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. And I was going to ask you next about tips about getting into the industry, but I think you've done a really good job of kind of covering off maybe the things that they shouldn't be doing more than anything. And I absolutely agree. I mean, if you are a aspiring analyst and you were in my Discord, this actually happened, I think, last week. Someone had written a scouting report, they sent it in, and one of the LEC analysts gave feedback on it, right? That is the sort of thing you should be doing. You should be going out there, producing content and getting people to tell you about it, and then taking those that feedback into consideration and improving until eventually someone picks you up, because inevitably it will. And then there is that forever debate around how much do you accept, because this isn't the first industry this exploitation has happened. It's happened in film and gaming production, right? Game designers, when they're first in, take terrible salaries, work really long hours. So there's definitely something to be said about having a bit of resilience yourself and making yourself so skillful that people can't turn you away, right? Make yourself so valuable to a team that they just have to accept whatever salary you're asking within a reasonable amount. Go ahead.
No, and also I want to say there are teams that cannot affront this salary for analysts. But for example, I think something that UCAM, the Spanish team, even though they're gonna play relegation this split, they are doing something very well, and they have been doing that for the last years. Is that they hire people with no experience, and they give them some money, but at least that is my point. You don't exploit them, because when you are working for UCAM and you don't have experience, they will not be forcing you to work like 14, 15 hours. If not, you're gonna get fired. Like, what do you mean I'm gonna get fired? You don't even pay me. Like, how can you fire me? And it happens also to me at the beginning, and it was a mistake. It was a mistake. I've been working for a year without getting any compensation, and that's a huge mistake. I definitely don't recommend that to anyone. It was a different time, of course, but yeah, it's difficult.
Cool. We're going to pivot for two last questions before we call it a day. And one of them I'm interested in, and this came from the Discord. So we asked the Discord for some questions. We've covered a few of them, but this one I thought might be useful. You might have an opinion on, which is how is your knowledge and experience as an analyst in, let's say, League of Legends, how transferable is it to another game, let's say Valorant?
Well, it's actually a really good question, because I applied for the Ward, because they opened an application on Twitter, and I applied for them.
For what? Sorry, I didn't catch
the Guard.
Oh, the Guard. Nice.
The Guard, sorry. It's a Valorant team. Basically, they're playing on North America region. Transferring your knowledge.
So you're in an interview now, really, to the Guard, right? Show off your skills. What have you learned?
Yeah, no, exactly, because actually it happens to me. So yeah, I will say transferring your knowledge between one game and the other, it's not possible, because there are two completely different games. But as I said before, with the studies and the experience that we have, we are able to know which data is useful and which data is not useful. And this is regardless the game. This is regardless the game, to be honest. You can be more efficient if you know about the game, of course, because at the end of the day, they need to have a meaning. And if you know about the game, they will have a meaning. But still, even if you do not know that much, of course, you always need to know a bit. No? But if you don't know that much, it still should be fine, because you have the knowledge of how to treat and deal with data. You also have experience on how esport teams works, because at the end, Valorant, League of Legends, they're kind of the same organizations. Not all of them, but you still have Team Liquid, 100 Thieves, many teams that they have teams in League of Legends and Valorant. So you know how organizations works. You know what is your role, because the role of a head coach in Valorant, of course, is not the same, or they don't need to know the same as the League of Legends head coach, but still you know what you as an analyst should do with a head coach, regardless the game. So it's not about how you can transfer the knowledge of a game to another, it's more about the experience that you have working on esports.
Yeah, exactly. The soft skills are always transferable. Presentation skills, the ability to convince someone, whatever it might be, soft skills are always transferable.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks. We'll close out with my final question, which is, what is your favorite statistic?
I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I don't have any. But if I have to pick
That's
one,
sad.
I would, because I consider that many of them are important. So it's like I don't have one in particular. But if I have to say one that I really, really like is for fun, actually, I used to do it for fun, to check the win rate of the champions that we have played with in scrims.
So
basically the win rate.
Their scrim win rate, so not solo queue, not pro. How
Per
do they
champion,
perform
per
in
champion.
scrims? Yeah. And how do you find that correlates well with pro? Do you find it correlates better with solo queue? If you had to pick which side it's closer to, which one would it be?
I don't know. I never compared. I mean, yes, I did. I did compare it, but it's just for fun. I would say like solo queue and competitive are not always the same, but there are some cases that yes, you can see that when one champion is broken on solo queue, it is likely that it's also broken on competitive, but it's not mandatory. If that makes sense,
Right.
because there are champions that you cannot play on competitive because at the end it's a 5v5 game, and what matters is how you do as 5v5. But solo queue is more like 1v5, you know. So there are champions that are gonna be good in solo queue. There are champions that are gonna be good on competitive. But in general, when a champion is strong on solo queue, it's also strong in competitive. I'm gonna give you an example. Wukong.
Right.
Wukong in the patch 12-13, it was very solid on solo queue with, I believe, 55% of win rate or something like that. And in competitive, it was even higher. It was even higher with 65 or something like that. So yeah, they have some relation between them, I would say.
Yep.
But yeah, that will be my favorite one. I just do it for fun, the win rate of the champions. But mainly it's for fun. Maybe it's just later to go to the coach and tell them, look, we are so bad.
Every time we pick whatever, we lose. Yeah, I mean, you get back to that debate of, we have 3 games and we lost all 3, therefore champion is bad, which means you don't understand statistics.
Exactly.
All right.
But it's so fun. It's so fun to mock. I really recommend that to everyone.
Okay. Yeah, I will. I'll take that on board, and I hope everyone else does as well. Thank you very much for joining us, Alejandro. It's been a pleasure.
Jack.
Is there any socials or sites you want to plug before we close it out?
Just my Twitter. My Twitter is at AlexFDI Flores.
Cool. Whatever platform we end up putting this on, I will put a link below. So if you didn't catch that, you'll find it in the description. Thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jack, for your time.
No problem. Bye.